everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Pedro and I have been talking about just how enthusiastic you guys are already in the chat. But just to double check, if you could hear us and see us okay, please type llama in the chat. Let us know if we could be heard. No echoes, no audios. No audio problems, sorry. Okay, and while we
all good from here, llama.
Great. Yay! I see some llamas from everybody. We've got people from Barcelona, Spain, Hungary, Germany, California, Australia. You guys are staying up late, as Pedro mentioned. Like, wow, the dedication for that.
Thank you.
Great. And I see some familiar faces and maybe some new ones. So I think we could begin. So hello again, everybody. My name is Kathleen, and I am with Etchr. I'll be your studio host for today. And we are an art learning platform who works with art teachers from all over the world. So today, your wonderful teacher will be Pedro Loureiro, one of our dedicated resident artists on Etchr. And the resident artist program, just so for those who haven't, who doesn't know about that yet, it's a program developed by Etchr and where we invite back some of Etchr Studio's most popular and well-received artists to teach on a regularly recurring basis. And today's free demo works as a preview for Pedro's 90-minute class, and that class will be on March 10th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be dropping that link real quickly in a chat. And Pedro will be talking about monumental urban sketching there. So by watching Pedro's content, you'll be supporting him greatly with what he does. So please consider having a look at that class. Great. And we've got a lot of llamas already. Awesome. So before we begin, just the usual, if you have any questions, just type them in all caps, just like this, so I could easily defer them in the chat. And keep an eye on the chat, speaking of that, because I'll be dropping lots of links. And for new customers, actually, for new first-time viewers right here, you might want to stick till the end because I have a surprise for you. So with that said, Pedro, can you let us know what you'll be doing today and how that connects to your Etchr class?
Hi, Kathleen. Thanks so much, and thank you all. Thank you all for coming. I mean, this is amazing. There are people from all over the world. I can see from from even in Australia, as Kathleen mentioned, like it's probably like 2 or 3 a.m. there, and over here in Lisbon, it's. And people have been talking about the weather as well. So in Lisbon, it's quite mild, quite warm. We have like 20 degrees Celsius here. It's very nice to be outside. And let's just jump right into it. So what I'm going to do today, or what we're going to do today, is monumental sketching. So basically, this cycle will be themed about monumental sketching, and basically we're going to sketch monuments, but the monumental idea is that we're going to try to make them even more monumental. So we'll try to convey to our sketches that monumentality, and you can even do this with not only monuments and landmarks, but also with common houses, common buildings, and all the such. When you want to give that extra drama and that extra edge to a building, we're going to try this very simple exercise for starters, just as a preview, like a front-on monument. And I'll let you guys guess where this is. And it says right there in the corner. There's no surprises here. And we are going to segue into our 90-minute class in March. And it's going to be about, yeah, exactly. So we're going to turn the previous image into an image such as this one, where we have a third point perspective right up there. So we're going to try to approach perspective without actually using the most technical aspects of perspective. So we're basically going to try to curve the world, bend the world, so that we give this nice fish eye view kind of perspective, so that it enhances the drama of and the monumentality of the landmarks. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. In the preview, we're going to approach like simple exercises, just like this one, where everything is like very straightforward, very straight, very frontal, very frontal view. We're just going to use simple tools like framing and like limited palettes and contrasts, just to explore what we can do with a simple full frontal view. I'll let you guys guess on the chat where these things are, where these landmarks are, and I'll reveal them a little bit later on. Of course, this one's very obvious. And we're going to, I'm just going to show you a few simple tricks on how to like make your monument stand out a little bit more, just a little bit more. And it's a little bit like an enhancement on the photo that you would take that would be a little bit disappointing. So let's just get started. I'm going to use the Etchr's Perfect Sketchbook for this one. It's A4, and it's the A4 cold press, but this is just my personal preference. You can use whatever you like for this one. Of course, some effects of the watercolor work best in this sketchbook. So as you can see, the reference image, this is from Coimbra. It's a like mid-sized city here in Portugal, and it's a very old city and has a very old university. And this is the cathedral, the backside of the cathedral. So you couldn't get less drama than the backside of the cathedral, right? So we're going to try to use this narrow view, this narrow framing of the narrow streets to make it a little bit more impressive than it actually is in the photo. I mean, in the photo, everything looks a little bit like it's too close, it's too personal, it's too like there's no drama to it. There's a little bit of drama, but just not enough. We can use our sketching powers, superpowers, to just make it turn it over a little bit over the edge. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a small thumbnail. This is just a small, really quick thumbnail study just to see how am I going to place these elements, like the framing, the boxes, and the cylinders that make up this monument, this cathedral. How am I going to place this very vertical layout in a horizontal sketchbook? That's one of the first questions, of course, that we have. I mean, this is a vertical photo, a vertical building, a vertical narrow street, a vertical everything, and I'm using a horizontal landscape sketchbook. So that seems like a contradiction, but we're going to make the best of it, because I am forbidden by law to use portrait sketchbooks. I've always used. I haven't used portrait sketchbooks in a long time, and I can't go back to them. I don't know why. It's just my personal battle against myself. So, thumbnail is done. As you can see, it's really quick. I've included framing. I've included shadow studies. I've included volume studies. Now I'm going to transpose the idea that I have in the thumbnail back to the main page. So I'm going to do that small image and turn into a slightly bigger one, like double the size or maybe triple the size. And as you can see, as you may have noticed, I started the thumbnail from outside in because I wanted to get the sense of the framing. I wanted to get the sense of, okay, what fits in this small frame? How can I locate all the elements of the cathedral in this small frame? And now I'm starting outside, from the inside out. I'm spiraling out. I'm starting from the center and spiraling out and adding elements, adding pieces of the puzzle, like slowly and slowly and slowly, because it's much more manageable. And now I know, because I did the thumbnail, now I know that my space is under control, basically. My paper area is under control, so I know where everything is going to fit. Like everything is going to fit. Like the danger of not doing the thumbnailing is that maybe we start the sketch spiraling out, and we can't just manage our space. Everything seems too big or too small, or so. Now we know that with that thumbnail, with that quick study, we know where everything is going to fit in the big picture. So as you can see, this is really simple. There's almost no perspective here. There's a little bit of perspective, but you can write it off a little bit by, you know, like not mind it so much, because it's not that technical. It's not that much of a dramatic perspective. So we can just add elements to it. So I added a couple of cylinders down there with a cone, and now I'm adding a cube, which is the top part of the cathedral. And yeah, so that's basically it. We're just adding elements little by little, spiraling out, and this makes it a little bit more manageable. So if I start from the inside out, I'm just adding small pieces, like here's a cone here, here's a cylinder below the cone, here's a cube on top of the cone. Little by little, I make no mistakes. Like everything feels in the right place for now. Even if there are small perspective mistakes and small proportion mistakes, it doesn't really matter in the end, as you will see, because we're going to work several aspects of this. Not only the sketching. I mean, sketching is the first part, but maybe it's not the most important part. It's just we're just laying down the basic information about this cathedral. And as you can see, I'm insisting a little bit on the details here. And that's just because usually monumental sketches handle details quite well. I'm jumping from highly detailed parts of the sketch to almost empty parts of the sketch. So I'm going to leave some parts empty and some parts are oversaturated with detail. And this works by contrast. So contrast usually works well in any case, in any sketch, much more in a monumental sketch, where we have like tiny clusters of detail, and then we have empty areas that go between them. Now I'm just like catching the proportions and see, okay, that's the cube there with the tower, with the cupola and everything matches a little bit, matches more or less the height of the cylinder there. And yeah, that's just like tiny proportions that we can study from, that we can drag from here to there, just to keep the proportions in place. So you can also see then, and this might be like a European medieval thing, this I'm insisting a lot on horizontal elements. So horizontal lines are a big part of, especially like Mediterranean medieval monuments. It's probably this does probably not translate well to, for instance, Gothic French or German Gothic cathedrals, which are a little bit more vertical, a little bit different. So this is kind of very specific about certain Southern Europe monuments, medieval monuments, is that sense of horizontal lines feel more important than the vertical lines somehow. But that just might be my personal impression. So that's just a little bit of conceptual, historical context for you guys. So, but you can see how this is building up to be like a very detailed sketch with, I'm like skipping over some detailed parts while insisting a lot on other parts. For instance, the windows are quite detailed. The part where, I don't know the English word for this, but the part where the wall joins the roof. If someone speaking English as a native language can help me with this.
Yeah, let us know.
All right, so as you can see, right now we still only have cathedral, we still only have background. Now I'm progressing as much as I can to the outside. Now I'm spiraling outside, drawing already some of the elements in the foreground. Just adding a little bit of textures here and there, just random textures, trying to capture the essence of the cobblestone there, but not that much. I want the full detail to be on the cathedral itself. This acts by contrast. If the cathedral is very detailed, everything else should be less detailed because we're focusing on the cathedral.
Oh, and Pedro, I think
Yep.
we've got an answer. It's called the eaves or
The eaves. Okay,
eaves.
good.
There you go.
Thanks so much, Ruth. I see you there. The eaves. So
Ted
we can say it's the eaves of the roof.
I think
Maybe
that might
that's
be the
what
reason why it's
or
called
just the eaves as a
probably.
standalone, a standalone element. Right. A little bit more detail here. as you can see. Like, but you can see that the detail is not very detailed in itself. I mean, I'm not being very particular about the windows, the shape of the windows. Sometimes it's just a jot. Sometimes it's just a loop with the pen. I'm not being very picky about the, like all the ramparts of all the details of the wall there, all the ups and downs and all the arches. I mean, sometimes it's just like a little bit of messiness that you can add with the pen adds to the confusion, adds to the texture of the building, and that's most of the times that's enough. You don't need to draw a window as it is. You just need to draw, like, fill it up with details, sometimes with random lines. And this is just, don't tell anyone about this. This is just our little secret. What we have now, so I'm going to lay down finally the frames. So where we started in the thumbnail, that's where we're going to finish in the actual sketch, because now, like, everything is in place. So now we're safe enough to progress to the borders. If we had done the other way around, it might have worked. I mean, we can be experienced enough to make it work, but chances are, like, it's easier to make mistakes if we start from the outside in, because then we have no space for the cathedral. Then the cathedral loses a little bit of power and of like space to live and all that. Some of you may notice that I haven't drawn any lines connecting the cathedral to the grounds, and that has a reason. I usually use this trick, and this is another trick that a secret of art that you can take home, is that usually to convey a little bit more monumentality to these buildings, I try to disconnect them from the grounds. So only the color will act upon that connection. Only the watercolor will act upon it. So the connection becomes a little bit hazier. If you can see in the reference photo, there's a clear line. There's, like, even the car is parked there. So there's like a clear line dividing the ground from the monuments. But if we don't draw that line, then it becomes a little bit fuzzier. Then we cannot tell the distance. Maybe the cathedral is a little bit further away than we think. Maybe it's a little bit bigger. So we kind of mess around with the senses of whoever is looking at our sketch. So that's a cool trick that you can take home and you immediately use it. Don't draw the connecting line between the grounds and the building.
Great. And Pedro, just to insert a little bit, a lot of people are too curious about that special pen. I've already dropped the...
Okay, it's not a very special pen. Yeah, it's a Winsor. Okay, thanks for letting people know, Kathleen. It's a Winsor 3008 pen. It's very inexpensive. I bought it from AliExpress, from a supplier brand in China, and it's like $6 or something. It's a really robust pen, and it carries a lot of ink, so it's great. And of course I filled it up with the waterproof ink, because I'm going to paint over the sketch in a little while.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah. Sorry, Kathleen.
Should I move forward? Go ahead.
Okay, so now we have the sketch ready. So you can see it's not very, I mean, the cathedral is very detailed, but there's parts of it which aren't detailed. So that's what you should pay attention to. What didn't I sketch and what I chose to sketch? And that's your choice. That's your personal choice. You might want to pay attention to few things, and other people might pay attention to other things, and that's what you're going to detail. But try not to capture every single detail of the cathedral. Some, like 50% of the elements should do it, and that's just fine. So now I'm starting with watercolor. And what I'll do is I'll start with the shadows first. So basically, in the reference photo, you can see that there's the frontal side is clearly lighted from the sun, and the sides of the cathedral is shaded. So that's what I'm trying to capture, and I'm using mostly Winsor and Newton colors with a few colors of Etchr here and there. But it's mostly burnt sienna, that magical combination, that very simple combination of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue or cobalt blue. That's the classical watercolorists, watercolor artists mix, and it produces this like kind of warm, kind of cool, cool or warm gray when you want it. And that's just like a neutral color that you can either turn it to the warm or turn it to the gray side, to the cool sides, whenever you need. Now I'm using my shadows are a little bit warm because just the outlook of the photo is quite warm, and I'm going to act with the contrast as well. So basically, the cathedral will be warm, and I'm planning to use colder shadows or cooler shadows in the foreground there.
Great. And just to hop in really quickly from with a pen you're using, was that a Fuda nib or?
No, it was not a food. I do own a food nib, and I've been using it more often. But it's not. It's just like a plain, like very like fine nib.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much.
You can see already. You can see already what I meant when I wanted to use color as a connecting element between the building and the ground. You see, I'm using warm colors for the shadow in the cathedral, and I'm using cooler tones for everything around. I'm going to use cooler tones for everything that's around in the foreground, and the ground is already part of the foreground. So but I don't want that clear line again. I don't want that clear line that we have in the photo, in the reference photo. So I'm kind of fuzzing the edge there. So it's like the cathedral melts, blends into the grounds. So that effect, that illusion of the distance, we kind of keep that illusion of the distance. I mean, how far is this building? How close it is? We don't know, and that's part of the magic, and that's part of making it more monumental than already is. And yeah, a little break.
Yeah, no worries. And while you do that, Pauline has a wonderful comment right here. Your concept of filling in the center first is much like how I was taught to do a sign, writing first in an outline so you know the wording will always fit.
Yep. That's a great example. It's an example straight out of graphic design, I guess. So that's pretty much it, Poliana. It's how and this is a great example. What Poliana mentioned is a great example of how we can draw inspiration from other arts and crafts to sketching. Basically, you can pick up things from graphic design. You can pick up things from cinema, from music even. I mean, there's no boundaries to what you can do with sketching. So you just draw inspiration from whatever. I usually draw a lot of inspiration from cinema, actually, from movies and stuff.
Really, that's cool.
Right. Now you can really see that the blue tint that I'm using, it's a cobalt. It's a little bit of cobalt, a little bit of ultramarine. It's more ultramarine, actually. It's much more ultramarine, because gets a little bit darker, but it's still mixed with the burnt sienna. So it's like, let's say 80% ultramarine and 20% burnt sienna. And if we mix a lot of these two colors, you get this really dark gray. Really, it's kind of leaning towards the cool sides, towards the cold sides, but it's like a stark gray. So that's what I want in this facade. But you notice that there's also some light shining upon this right-hand facade. So I'm trying to keep that one, because it's going to play out really nicely with the contrasts against the cathedral. So you can see that I like contrasts a lot. I like contrasts in colors and temperature, color temperature. Now I'm doing the splashy splashy. That's always a winner, and takes no effort. Just add too much water and too much pigment, and you just splash it around and make it a mess. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it always makes like an impression. It's like chefs, like those professional kitchen chefs doing the salt thing, throwing the salt into the pan and into the frying pan. It's always good for style. Gosh, I'm giving away all the tricks here. There's nothing left for the 90 minutes class. No.
Oh, the fun will be there. Yeah,
No,
looking
no, just
forward
kidding.
to it.
The 90-minute class will be much more focused on the 3-point perspective,
Mm,
aspect of it. We'll use all these tricks and then the 3-point perspective.
great.
So you can see there's I've used here a warmer tone than I've used on the right hand facade there. And that's because I wanted to create like some kind of unbalance, some kind of asymmetry, because the image is very symmetrical. So I always try to lean it towards one side or the other, like trying to unbalance a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting. All right, now sky. This is pure cobalt blue. Just clean palettes or a clean area of your palette, and just cobalt blue with a little bit more water below and a little bit less water above, because usually the skies are a little bit bluish or bluer on the top
Well,
above your heads, and then it degrades down to a softer, whiter blue. Just going around the building. You can see I'm a little bit messy, but everything's kind of holding together. But
yeah,
I like the messiness of it all.
exactly.
I don't mind it. Right now, I'm just giving a little bit of tints using using that grayish lights, very watery. Just adding a little bit of water there because just going to add some shadows, blue shadows, of course, to contrast with the warmer shadows. It's all about contrast. It's all about like work with the warm and cool, work with the strong and like saturated and non-saturated, work with detail and non-detail, as I did with the walls, with the cathedral. Okay, now I'm adding a little bit of cooler, lighter tone, but I want to leave some areas of the cathedral, like shiny whites, just for people to have no doubts, no questions about where the sun is shining. Where is the sun shining from? Hi, Catherine. I see your comment. I usually do the sky first.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure why I did it so later in the process. I guess I wanted to focus more on the shadows first. I wanted you guys to focus more on the shadows first, but I usually go with sky first. Also because there's a practical reason for this. Also because like you usually want to get like a really clean blue for the sky, and with no mixture of burnt sienna or any other colors. And by the time I finish my shadows, my palette is in a mess, is in a complete and utter mess. And there's no room at all for having like a pure white, a pure blue for the for the sky. And but I got lucky this time. I reserved a special place just for the blue there, so it worked. I was actually not sure whether I was going to add the sky or not, but in the end, I think it needed the sky. I think it needed that pop of blue there. If not, just to complement the blue on the ground as well. And now I'm just adding, like I wasn't very detailed on the background, on the foreground, so I'm just adding a little bit of stronger shadows just to
Strengthen or
sorry.
no, I was trying to find a word with you as well. Was that strengthen or
Yeah, just to strengthen, just to like don't just not to have so empty of a background. And yeah, as a good urban sketcher, as good urban sketches, we always tag it in the end with the date and the location. This is the cathedral in Coimbra, and there you go. This is the finished product. And
great?
we still have the thumbnail here. An interesting thing is that you can also, I mean, thumbnails are, I usually do thumbnails for classes, but if I'm sketching if I'm just sketching myself, I mean just sketching out in the streets, I usually don't use thumbnails. I think about the thumbnail. I visualize the thumbnail in my head, and then like I've done enough thumbnails, and I've reached a point where I don't have to do thumbnails in every single view. But I just wanted to share my mental process with you guys by having the thumbnail there. If you do the thumbnail, and I encourage you to do the thumbnail at least in your first 100 sketches, let's say, random number. Try to at least incorporate it into the sketch. So you can see I went around it a little bit with the color. I even completed some details of the thumbnail with the color there, so that it becomes a little bit more part of the process, basically. So it's not like a completely detached element from your page, but it's like it takes part in the whole page, basically, in the whole layout. I'm
Great.
sorry, I think I was really fast. I'm usually really fast and sketching, but like this is why you get this is why this is like this is published. This is going to be posted on YouTube, so you guys get to watch it over and over and over again. And even I think even there's a gizmo in the YouTube to play it a little bit slower, so you can
Yeah. You could hear us just talk slower a bit as well, so which might be a little funny. um, cool. That was a lovely demonstration, and thank you so much, everybody, for. There are lots of comments over here in the chat. I know Pedro could see them, but I'll go through some of the comments and questions, which we may have missed. Starting with, let's see. Vespa for Jen. Your style and your demos are so inspiring. You're a fantastic artist and
Thanks so much.
educator. Aw, that's so
Thank
cool.
you very much.
Pedro is a resident artist for a reason, that's for sure. All right. And Chris says Etchr sessions continually help me break the rules. Oh, that's amazing.
So cool.
We've got a question from Raul Cardenas. Cool shadows and warm shadows. Do you combine both in one drawing? If not, how do you know when to use either one?
So you can see a good example here. I mean, there's warm and cool shadows in this one. So there's a cool shadow on the right-hand side and one very warm shadow on the left-hand sides. Here, I just wanted to create. Can you show the? Sorry, Kathleen. Can you show the reference picture again, just so we have both in the same image?
Let's see. Let me just go ahead and find that.
This is the surprise.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and see.
Well, what I usually do is I try to. Okay, so you can see that the Cathedral has a warm tone to it. The stone is kind of yellow. So I just went with that. I just went with that one, and I've used that single element, that single information, which is okay. This Cathedral is yellow, so I'll paint the shadows yellow. Or I'll paint the shadows in a warm tone, and everything else will be a function of that. So I won't care if the foreground buildings are painted yellow, and they are. I just want to create interesting contrasts. So my main thing is the Cathedral, and I will paint that cathedral with the proper shadow, which is warm, and everything else will be a function of that. So I'll connect the immediately connecting elements. The right hand facades is painted blue or cold gray, because I want that contrast between the warm and the the Cathedral is touching the facades on the right. So I want to create that contrast between the two colors. Where if you go to the left sides, we have a buffer. We have the sky. So there's Cathedral, yellow or warm, and then there's sky, which is blue, and then there's the facade again, which is yellow again, which is warm. So you can, it's like what do you call this? It's alternating. It's basically alternating tones, or alternating temperatures, basically, just to create a little bit more interest. If you give this warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool rhythm throughout your sketch, people will be losing their minds and looking like, oh, warm, oh, cool, oh, warm, because human eyes are attracted to contrasts, basically. So that's what we find naturally interesting.
Great
This is
answer. Yeah. Trisha says I could watch Pedro sketch all day. Such a good teacher and so inspiring.
thanks so
Let's
much.
see.
Thank you.
Am I missing any other questions? Hold on. Let me just go ahead and look back. And if you do have more questions, just type them in all caps again. Let's see. I've done several of Pedro's demos and workshops. His teaching style improves all the time. Thank you so much, Stephen says. Yay. Um, not to be. Let me just go ahead and see if you've got questions. Uh, I think I missed Ramona's question. Can you let us know the spelling of the location? And speaking of location, Pedro did a quiz earlier, so
Oh yeah,
some of
the
you have
quiz, the quiz.
answered.
The initial images. Okay, so the first one, if you haven't guessed it, the first image was a cathedral, and okay, this is so yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Let's go back. So this is going to be yeah. This is a cathedral, Christ the Savior Cathedral in Moscow. So it stands like in a huge platform. So it's like really like it was really a good subject to practice 3-point perspective. Although I didn't do that. So this is like a straight 1-point perspective, almost 1-point perspective sketch. Very simple, but like you can see how the sky is dramatizing everything. Like the cathedral is already monumental, but then I added those warm and cool tones in the sky just to make it a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more monumental. So here it's actually the background that's working for us for the monumentality of the sketch, and you see the connection, the lack of connection between the ground floor and the monuments. Like the monument stands upon the clouds,
Right.
almost something like that. And this is very obvious. This is a Colosseum in Rome with almost all the no like here you don't get the warm cool the warm cool contrasts very obviously, but you can see like everything is warm except for the arches. The arches have a touch of blue in them, so that creates like the contrast needed for the punctures for the arches to work as like these are really deep. So suddenly these become very deep, and also the disconnect with the ground floor as well. The ground floor is completely non-detailed and blah blah blah. And here this is very detailed. This is I think too detailed. But then like the excess of detail. This is Petra Jordan, of course, and the excess of detail that we have in the building works in contrast with the lack of detail in the rocks, in the cliffs around it. So you can pay more attention to the building because there's such a lack of detail around it. And
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
fast forward to the next one, which would be this one.
this is also in Coimbra. This is the city where the cathedral that we sketched today is located in. But this is like a lower point view. This is a lower street downtown, and you can see also the framing effect, the effect that the street does with framing the whole thing. I think I'm not sure what this building is. I think it's the town hall. I think it's the city hall, the municipality headquarters, so to speak. And over there you have like one of the oldest universities in Europe, which is Coimbra's University, up there in the hill. And yeah, so everything builds up to like warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, and then you get to the sky. All this effect drives the eyes, and like it's like a stairway going to heaven, to quote
Great.
Led Zeppelin.
And I think that's it then. And someone was asking about the location, so somebody already answered that in the chat. So
Oh
thank
yeah,
you so
thank you,
much.
Antonio.
Yeah. All right. Let me just go ahead and make sure we are not missing out anything. Yeah, I think there are no more questions in chat. But if you do have any more questions for Pedro, go ahead and follow him on Instagram or post them on our private Facebook group. We definitely could. Pedro would love to answer your questions there. Okay, I think no more questions coming in. So with that being said, I did promise we have a surprise for new viewers over here. So if you're a first time Etchr Lab customer, you get a 10% discount code using the try 10 at checkout. So go ahead and maximize that if you may. All right, so we do these live sessions a couple of times a week. So make sure to hit that subscribe button below so that you'll be able to get notified whenever we do these live sessions. And if you like today's demo, please click the like button below and let us know how we did today through our feedback survey. If you liked our video format, or if you liked how Pedro explained the class preview today, let us know, because Pedro will definitely love to hear more from you and what other things you might want him to do in the future. So yeah, please express your thoughts through our feedback survey. And Etchr also has a Make More Art podcast. So if you want to listen to some of our featured artists while you are painting along and practicing before attending the 90-minute class with Pedro, go ahead and listen to those. And any final thoughts, Pedro, before we sadly have to close this session?
Yeah, I'm sad. No, let's just keep on going. No, cool. It's all cool. And no, I think we're pretty much done. We're pretty much covered everything. I think I just want to say, in the 90 minutes class, we're going to have, so as I said, we're going to use all these tricks and plus the 3-point perspective thingy. And we're going to do short exercises, a little bit like the thumbnail we did. Short exercises just to introduce the technical aspects of 3-point perspective. So step by step, before we head on to the major sketch, which is this one that Kathleen is highlighting, we're going to do like small kind of small exercises, very quick, about how to progress in, okay, so this is a 1-point perspective, this is a 2-point perspective, this is a 3-point perspective, just for you guys to know where we're heading at and how do we, like, create all these dimensions in our heads and in our sketches.
Great, awesome. And
please do tag me on Facebook and Instagram so I can like comment on you guys' results. I'd love to see your results.
Sure. All right. And I'm going to be, I think I missed dropping the link of your hashtag, but just go ahead and use hashtag Etchr Studio and tag Pedro Loureiro when you post on Instagram. Yeah, and awesome. So this is the 90-minute class, and this is what we did today. If you've missed today's session, no worries. You could just refresh this page and go ahead and, like Pedro has mentioned, slow down. So you could follow along. And I hope you enjoyed your time with Etchr as well, Pedro. And thank you for that amazing preview, jam-packed with so much information. I could definitely relate with everybody in the chat. And thank you, everybody, for being so enthusiastic. You guys are amazing. Yay. And until next time, everybody, make more art. See you next time. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.